Hey there. Welcome to the Pelvis Project podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Roxy. We're two pelvic health experts brought together by passion for our careers, entrepreneurship, motherhood, and the desire for intentional relationships.
Join us in our mission to spread pelvic floor awareness and start conversations surrounding the truth behind genuine health, imperfect wellness, and joyfully navigating life. We are so glad you are here with us.
Let's start the conversation. Hello, Megan. How are you?
Pretty good. You just had a nice little trip to the lake.
Yep, we did.
And you had a little mishap with your telephone.
I did. I truly disconnected. My phone took up permanent residence at the bottom of a lake on day one of vacay. So.
And funny story, I was trying to get a hold of Roxy and she didn't know that. And I went down a rabbit hole in my head of like what had happened to her. And I had a whole day of panic. It's a sign that
Thanks.
You're truly my best friend.
I feel loved. I also feel terrible because I was oblivious to
it's fine.
Everybody else's concern.
In my head, I was like, she's on vacation and she truly unplugged, but you really did with it falling in the lake. So anyway. All right. Well, we are excited to be back for this episode. We have a wonderful guest on, and we hope that this episode is very intriguing to everybody. We have Dr. Leen Awad on today's episode. She is a board-certified internal medicine doctor and a lifestyle medicine physician who helps high-functioning women in their 30s and 40s take control of their health before midlife hits. She specializes in disease prevention, hormone shifts, energy, and the body changes that often show up during perimenopause, and teaches women how to stay strong, lean, and in control with a preventative and realistic approach. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and let's take a listen. All right. We are here with Dr. Leen. Thank you so much for being on the podcast with us.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to join.
Well, let's start off. Tell us a little bit about kind of what got you here, your background. We know that you're a doctor and a mom, and I think this is what you're about ready to kind of share is going to resonate with so many, but give us a little bit of background on you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm an internal medicine doctor. I work as a hospitalist. I was working full-time for 5 years, and then I went through burnout. So I went part-time, and I found a way that helped me feel better about my life. I found my path. And because of that, what I went through, I now teach that to other women through coaching, mainly health coaching, but a lot of mindset coaching as well, based on what I've been through. And right now, most of my time is in my coaching business. And then I'm very part-time as a hospitalist.
I love that. I love that. So you have children.
Yes, I have 2 boys, aged 5.5 and 2.5. So it is a busy season.
Yes.
Same. I have 2 girls, 5.5, 2.5. So I get you.
Oh,
I see you.
Same already. Yes, doing it all.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I think that topic of burnout, we hear that so often. So how did that kind of show up for you? What were things were you kind of noticing when you got to that point where you're like, okay, this is... Yeah.
Well, first of all, it was COVID and having a baby. And we're like, okay, well, you know what? This is, abnormal circumstances. It's going to get better. Well, guess what? It never got better. Things just went downhill in the hospital life. And it's just a busy season. It's just the flu season. It's just summer. And then you wake up 3, 4, 5 years later and you're like, oh, well, there was like never really a break. And you just slow down and realize that not only are you wasting years, it's just, if you go down to how many weeks we have per life and going by week by week by week, where you're not paying attention to your health like you should, by the time that you wake up and want to focus on prevention, it might be too late.
Right.
And when we're in these careers where we focus a lot on academics and then a lot of competitive fields, things that we go through, I think it's normal in our 20s to hustle, to try to make it. But then when you realize that you've hit your mid-30s, you're not giving time to yourself or your health, something is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Just thinking about how you said, jobs where they're competitive. And I think it speaks volumes. I mean, was that difficult to make that decision of like that realization of like, oh my goodness, because obviously going to school to become a doctor is a lot of work, a lot of years. Were you kind of like, maybe speak into that, just that decision? Because I think it's amazing when people can be like, you know what? I know I worked really hard, but I need to pull back on this because it is
I
that
know.
like that career of like, you should just be, it seems like it's just more, more, more. How was that for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was hard. I'm gonna be honest. It was my husband who made the change. He was like, we're both, this is not working. We're both full
Yeah.
time, both hospitalists, both
Okay.
needing to do night shifts and weekends.
Wow.
And then it was my 5-year-old asking, Mommy, why do you work on Saturdays? So my husband also quit, but he's working full time in a different setup where he does not have to do night shifts anymore. And
Yeah.
that added so much to our health, to our life. And then I decided in the current season, I wanted to be part time, not because I don't want to work. I love being a doctor. I
Yeah.
love, and I still work a full work week, but in
Yeah.
my business, something that I'm building. And I see more passion in helping people like prevent disease.
Prevention.
I've seen
Yeah.
so much disease at the end of it in
Yes.
the ICU where it was too late for me to make a meaningful change in people's lives. And I wanted to be more on the front row. And that's when I got out there and got certified in lifestyle medicine on top of my internal medicine, because I felt like not only do I want to save lives, I want to improve lives.
Oh, I love that. And that was going to be my next question. You kind of led right into it, was tell us about the lifestyle type training. And because when I met you and you started telling me, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I didn't even know we had anybody here that was doing this.
Yeah, I think we clicked because we
I
both
know.
have a similar passion, working
Yes.
on that end of making people's quality of life better
Yeah.
and preventing diseases one way or the other, whether it's with pelvic physical therapy
Yeah.
or lifestyle medicine. So I went to the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and different healthcare providers can get certified. I took the physician route. I took their board. I took the exam. I went to their conference, and I got certified where we can either practice lifestyle medicine as a doctor or as a health coach who's a
I
doctor.
like that. Okay.
Yeah.
That gives you a little bit, you're open to, yeah, which gives you a little bit more freedom when you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
do either way. So,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Okay. So tell us again, how long have you been doing the lifestyle medicine coaching?
The end of 2024.
Into 2024.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's dive into, you shared with us a little bit about kind of the foundation. It sounds like kind of when we're looking at lifestyle medicine, and we talk, there's the 6 pillars that you work with people on a lot. So
Yes.
maybe why don't you kind of take us through those? I'm sure as we go, Roxy and I will have plenty of questions and excited to kind of dive into these because they're going to be so helpful for so many people just to hear. So let's start off and we can just dive in and go through them.
Yeah. So there's 6 pillars of health, and lifestyle medicine focuses on that. And this applies to everybody, right? Every age group, every gender. But what I've done more with my coaching is I'm focusing on women in their 30s and 40s, where we're working on preventing certain symptoms from happening before perimenopause, kind of getting them through that phase of perimenopause stronger and getting them to the other side where after menopause, they are healthier, stronger, decrease the risk of falls and illness. But I'll start by talking about the general 6 pillars that apply to everybody. It is, first of all, your nutrition. So we go real deep on what is good nutrition and how do we really dial that in, not only to prevent disease, but you can actually reverse disease with the way that you eat. And that for me was mind blowing. I didn't know that before lifestyle medicine, that you can reverse disease with food and exercise. So we go deeply in that. And then there's a lot of misinformation, mixed information out there on what is healthy, what is not healthy. So kind of to clarify all the noise out there, all the clutter, and really going back to what we should be doing. And to simplify it, we really need to avoid processed foods, ultra processed foods, and we need to focus on whole foods. So I always ask, does this food come from a farm or a factory? And that's going to tell you if you should be eating a lot of it or not. But also, we need to know that real life happens And like in everything, I focus on the 80-20 rule. So what that looks like in my house is I'll have everything following the nutrition guidelines that I've set for my family in the house. But outside of the house, if my kids are going to eat a cupcake at a birthday party, I'm not going to tell them not to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be that mom. So we're just trying to make things realistic. I don't like to be on the extreme side of things. And then absolutely protein. If we're talking about the perimenopause and focusing on aging gracefully after menopause, we really need to dial in our protein for strength. And you must know that about as physical therapists. So you will be big fans. Yes.
It's so
I'm
funny
sure you've talked about
like,
it before.
As you say that, I'm like, yes. And it's the hardest thing for me to do for myself is get the amount of protein in that I need. So we're always working on it.
Yeah.
When you're talking about reversing disease, can you talk about that a little more? I think that is really fascinating. I even just had a patient yesterday that was asking just about like, is this possible to get over this? I think just as a culture, we think that we have a diagnosis and we can manage it and maybe minimize it, but maybe just speak into that a little more because I think that's really maybe a direction we need to lean more or just have our eyes opened a little bit more towards.
So, absolutely. Great question. So, if someone is starting to be metabolically unhealthy and on the path to diabetes and they are pre-diabetic, they can actually reverse that. In the early stages of diabetes, you can reverse that if you change the way you eat and you move. There was a study that was done, I think it was in the 1980s, that they put some patients on a very restrictive diet. I'm not sure that this is applicable in the day-to-day life, but it proves something for cardiac patients who had an initial heart attack. And then they compared them to those who got a stent and got a heart cath. And then they compared ones who went on a very restrictive diet and exercise. And then they found out that some of that blockage in their heart was reversed without a stent, just in that study, in that context. Yeah. And that just speaks volumes. Like in the hospital, we get patients with heart attack all the time. Are we just treating it and sending them home without really deeply counseling them on what they should be eating and not eating?
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure it's interesting because like in the normal standard kind of in, medicine, it's hard because it's like, yes, even like, you know that. And when you're in the hospital and somebody's there and you're like, okay, we can reverse this. And it's hard because then it's like, you don't get to follow through or are they even going to do it? So like, I'm sure it's just so rewarding now to kind of be able, like you said, to be on the other side of it and be able to really like intervene earlier on. But it is pretty amazing too. We'd love to speak it. We Rex and I always, are talking with our patients too about just how amazing the body is and what it can do. We just have to take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Okay. So we went through nutrition. We stopped on protein. Anything else in that category that I think it's so good and so important.
Yeah, that is the main thing. I would really focus on getting enough fiber, vegetables. Most Americans are not near the dietary requirement of fiber a day, which is around 30 grams a day. So I would start by counting how much you're getting, maybe 2 cups before every meal of a vegetable. And that'll really help with your gut health, really help balance your sugar as well with getting enough fiber.
All right. So we got nutrition. All right. What's next? There's number 1.
Yeah. So the second pillar is your movement or your exercise. And most people are not exercising enough. They're not getting their weekly requirement. So if you want to protect yourself from brain disease, think dementia, Alzheimer's, and your heart from heart attacks, then you need to do some form of cardio. But also, we really need to focus on resistance training and muscle. And if we don't do that, then we're at huge risk of bone fractures from osteoporosis as we age. We are at risk of many other diseases. And muscle is not just for aesthetics. Strength is not just for aesthetics. It actually helps us metabolically and it helps us balance our hormones. And the more muscle a woman can build before she's in her, say, mid-40s, when it's way more difficult to build muscle because of the hormonal changes, as your testosterone levels dip, it's harder to build muscle. The more you can build early on, the more balanced hormones you will have during menopause. It will make the roller coaster easier for you, and it will make everything better. And you're way more likely to stay out of the nursing home if you build muscle.
Yeah.
So that is just absolutely important. And I always think like I've probably been in the hospital floors for over a decade, and I can't remember a single time where I admitted a muscular athlete. Like I have never in my life admitted an athlete who is muscular ever. And I wonder if that says something, but I'm sure they're not falling. I'm sure they're not breaking bones. I'm sure they're not getting dementia as someone who's sedentary. And then for your cardio, 150 minutes a week is what is really required.
Yeah, it's so true. When you just point that out, like in all your years of being in the hospital, it's like, we're not seeing people being admitted that are, maybe
That's
you have
good
like
sign for them.
appendix rupture or something, but like,
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the surgeons would see them where they wouldn't even need to medically consult me for any medical issues. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's so true. Yes, movement. It is such a good thing.
Well, and I appreciate you saying just how like almost front loading our life a little bit of increasing that strength, that muscle mass ahead of time as a preventative measure. I sometimes think, when I'm older, I need to make sure that I'm adding that in, making sure I don't like fall off on strength training or whatever, but it's like, no, right now I need to kind of be front loading that, and optimizing, setting myself up for when I hit that phase, then to be resilient in that. And I love that you pointed that out just because I don't know. I think once we're in it, it's like, oh, shoot, I need to be doing that because I'm in this phase of life. Or I hear women, it's like, oh, I started because I heard this. I read this article or I heard something that I need to do this, but thinking even our younger, even in like premenopausal, and our younger years to be really trying to build those habits now when we're younger so that it's a smoother transition, like you said, and a less of a roller coaster.
Yeah. Well, and I just, as somebody, I'm 41. And so it's wild how quickly you get here, And you're like, oh, I'm 41. Like I'm entering into that time. And I think when we see all different ages of people to be able to kind of bring this up a little bit more frequently of, hey, now's the time to do it. Now's the time to do it. And I even look at my daughter she's a teen. I mean, she's 14, and we talk a lot about like how like being strong is important and that sort of thing. And I just think like, wow, these conversations weren't happening at all when I was her age. It's fun to see happen. Now, I had a patient who has a son who's working with a friend of mine who's a PT, and he said like, hey, this is your time right now. You should take advantage of your age right now and really focus on being able to, you're going to build the most muscle you can right now at this age. And it like really got him like excited to lift weights and motivated. And he didn't even, as a young teen, didn't even think like I should start laying down these habits now. So, because the time goes by fast, because here I am at 41. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like the term front loading and how we get there fast. Like one moment you're in the thick of motherhood, postpartum, and then all of a sudden, like, and you're dieting potentially to lose that baby weight. But then all of a sudden, oh no, I need to think about my longevity. I'm not trying to lose weight. I'm trying to build muscle, and losing fat will be like a byproduct of that process.
Yeah. Being able to understand the why a little bit better, like why do we want to exercise? Why it's not just like this aesthetic weight loss thing, this is like to optimize your health for years to come. So,
well, and to put, like you said, with the why, I think we all know, we need to exercise that, like the 150 minute, I don't know. I feel like that's just like a broken record kind of. And like, this is the recommendation, but to say, no, this is why it's important. And this is actually what you need to be doing. And I think to have more that research and that evidence to say this is why we're recommending it. These are the benefits of it. Like we all know exercise is healthy for us. Like we all know that, but are we all doing it? No. And so I think I appreciate that just to pinpoint.
Yeah.
Here's some reasons why. Like this is important, and you're going to be grateful later that you did it now. And I don't know, I just think bringing more perspective to the conversation is really valuable. So I appreciate you just pointing some of those things out, because I don't think it's the first time anyone's heard to exercise 150 minutes a week, but to say this is why is important.
Mm-hmm. And a little bit more on why 150, where they came up with that number.
Yeah.
So the benefit of exercise to prevent mortality is actually a J-shaped curve, but it's like an upside down J. So what it means is the most benefit is as soon as you get off the couch. And at some point, they were saying exercise is recommended to be at least 10 minutes a week or a day. I can't recall what they said, to be considered exercise and beneficial. Well, guess what? Then they retracted that. They said, you know what? Just move. Even under 10 minutes will give you a mortality benefit.
Wow.
And then they started tracking. So the most benefit you get is just from getting off the couch and moving. Probably 10 minutes a day of exercise is way more beneficial than 0 minutes a day of exercise. But then, there's a curve. And then what happens is you stop seeing a big improvement. So someone who's doing exercise of 300 minutes a week and 400 minutes a week, it's not a huge mortality benefit. After 400 minutes a week of cardio, there's really no extra mortality benefit after. So 70% of the prevention happens at 150 minutes a week of moderate exercise. And if you're going to do intense exercise, you just need 75 a week to prevent your death by 70%.
Wow. Man, when you put that in, it's like, oh, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a huge benefit. Just to put those numbers to it, like a 70%.
We're talking death.
Death.
Yes.
To do that in a week, we can do that.
You can do it. Yeah.
I know.
You don't need to do an hour a day. Yeah.
We're gonna pull that quote off the podcast and we're post it up in our office. Like,
seriously. Do you want to die?
Yeah.
No. Get off the couch.
Just get off the couch. I love it. No,
Best prescription.
Best prescription. And that is why something with like what you do with coaching, I think can be so helpful is people just need that somebody to check in on them and keep them accountable. And for example, I mean, with some of the functional med work that I've done for myself, where I actually do better when I see my providers more often, just because it's that like, I have patients say, oh, I think I'm good. I'll see you in like 3 months versus, 6 weeks. And then they come in and they're like, yeah, I haven't done anything. I need to see you more frequently, because it's like you need that check-in.
Need the accountability. Yes.
You do, definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, okay, well, we got stuck on movement. So
imagine that we're a couple PTs.
I know. All right.
The third pillar is sleep. And we really need to prioritize sleep. And some people think it's just the hours slept, but it's actually also the quality of sleep. So most people need to sleep 7 to 9 hours to be good, to be functioning, to be well. There's a few people who might be out of that variety, but most people would need that. However, the majority of people are sleeping a little bit under 7 hours. It's like 6 hours and 50 minutes. That's the majority in the United States. And that's not enough. So sleeping is when your body is actually building the muscle that you work to build. It's not while you're lifting the weights. And it's when your body is building up your immune system. It is when you're fighting the disease. So poor sleep is linked to certain cancers even. I can't say that it's causing it, but there are links. And then it is linked also to some psychiatric issues. You can get depressed, you can get anxiety. And we just think of sleep in terms of hours. I know sometimes as a mom, you just want to do that Netflix at the end of the day. It's finally my me time. And then just get down on the sleep and then it's 5 hours. But that's not really wellness. That's not prioritizing your health. So you need to find a way. I actually put an alarm for bedtime. That's way more important than the alarm that I put to wake up in the morning. What can help it is like certain sleep hygiene measures that we do, like avoid screens an hour before bedtime. Right now, iPhones have a great feature on it where you can block the blue light that comes out and have it only to the warm tone of the light. So blue lights are really bad for sleep. The wavelength that they have affects our circadian rhythm. So watching your circadian rhythm, doing certain measures to tweak up your sleep, and that can also help stabilize your mood if you're going through the perimenopausal train of hormone changes.
I love sleep.
You love sleep. Yeah.
I think that's like my top, like,
I already got this. You don't need to tell me to sleep. Yeah.
I know. Well, and I know I got thyroid stuff. So I'm like, oh, I'll go. I'm out. People are like, how's your quality? I'm like, it's actually probably it's actually probably the other problem. It's too deep of a sleep. But no, I think that, we see a lot of postpartum moms. And there are times where it's like they're trying to do all the things. And a lot of times I'll just be like, what I'm giving you today is I just need you to sleep. Like that is, because, it's like we talk about that with kind of we were at a conference that Roxy and I go to called Pelvicon. And we talk about a similar pillars, and it's like that sleep, if you don't have it, and you're exhausted, then you're too exhausted to exercise. Well, then you're too too tired to even make or feed yourself, and then you don't have the energy, and then you don't want to exercise, and it's like it takes all the other pillars down. So
absolutely, yes, I do feel like it is the domino effect after the sleep. Just sleep well, and then you'll wake up in a better mood to be able to take care of everything else and others in your life. Yeah.
I feel like we could have probably a whole episode on just sleep alone, because it is something that we see so often. And that's when I do an eval on somebody, we talk about sleep and I ask how many hours they get. And then I also ask, like, do you wake up feeling rested? Because a lot of times they're like, no. And it's like, okay. So asking about the quality and that sort of thing and how often they wake up, and then trying to dig in a little bit more of, why do you wake up? Is it that you have a baby, or is it your mind is racing, or all of that? So yeah, sleep is such an interesting thing for sure.
Dr. Leen, do you have any just suggestions for those like postpartum moms, or those, where you can do all the right things, but you're having to wake up anyway, 1 or 2 times a night?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think postpartum, it was a tough chapter in my life because of the lack of sleep or interrupted sleep. It was hard. I'm not just gonna say, oh, you have to sleep, and then not acknowledge that they might not have that support. Maybe their partner can't wake up at night with them because they have a full-time job the next day. When you don't have a maternity leave, like I had to hop back to work at 12 weeks, and I was lucky, but some people have to do that at 6 weeks. Either way, it's still very short. The best thing that we did for our family was sleep training for the kids, but still I did have to wake up for breastfeeding. I still had those interruptions, but it did bring a lot of my sanity back when I sleep trained my children. I do recommend that they just acknowledge how important it is in their postpartum chapter, and to prioritize it as I need this, to ask for it rather than ask for help with the laundry or the dishes. Like ask, I need to sleep. Can you hold the baby? I need to catch up on some sleep. Do that rather than prioritizing the house. Delegate, ask for help. This is the time where you need to build your village. And one of the things that I teach in coaching is the art of delegation. How to figure out, even down to a budget, what budget can you afford and how to stack that help in the best way possible to be able to have a good life.
That's good. Thanks. Yeah.
I love just what you said about like asking for help for the sleep. Because you're so right. Everybody, have family come over and they're like, oh, can you do the dishes? Oh, can you do this? And then you're sitting there awake, holding the baby, still taking care of the baby, when that is the best time to say like, hey, I'm going to go lay down. I don't think a lot of women even think to ask that. Sleep is just like a luxury.
Our brains are wired to just kind of keep doing instead of say, oh, I'm just going to rest. Even though my to-do list has 100 things on it, now is the time to rest.
Yes. Very good.
Our 4th pillar is stress management. So if you have a lot of stress in your life, you need to figure out where that's coming from, why that's coming from, and then figure out a way to solve those problems. Not all stress is something that we can completely eliminate. So we need to practice our self-regulation, our resilience, train ourselves. There are different methods that one can do. Some stuff that are just like self-help stuff that you can learn from books, you can learn from coaches, and some stuff can be like deep to a level where you might need a therapist. But one of my favorite ways to manage stress is to set boundaries in life and work. So even if you have a stressful job, you need to not let it get to you. So you need to figure out what is causing the stress and how can we make this more productive and less stressful. And then also I tapped into the world of meditation because meditation is scientifically proven to change the brain. On MRIs, they look different where your hippocampus, and that's the part that you want to be more active, gets activated more. And then your amygdala gets smaller or less active. And that's the part that's linked with fear and anxiety and worry. So meditation is something beautiful. It's amazing. I even go to some local sound baths here in town. I go to yoga sessions. All of that has just helped me not be as stressed in a very stressful job that I have.
I remember when I heard about the study that they did with meditation and the benefits of it. And I was kind of like, I mean, again, these are all things that we hear, but then when you really put like the evidence towards it, trying to get people to slow down and do like breath work and meditation is it's hard.
And it's hard if you've never done it before
Yeah.
because you'll be like, oh, that's just not for me. Or it's like boring the first time you're going to meditate. I literally fell asleep the first time I went to meditate, but I love it now.
Yeah. Well, and I think that too, just like, even if somebody is a little like, oh, I can't do that, even just 5 minutes to start with, just 5-10 minutes, it is kind of amazing what can happen when you just quiet for 10 minutes. And it's funny because it's like, for myself, I've gone through little seasons where I've done more like meditation type breath work and stuff like that, where I'm like, oh yes, this is really good. And then I get out of that habit. And then, it's like I go back and forth. And just the other day, I had a window of time and I just had a lot going on. And I laid in my treatment room and I turned the light off and I have a biomat in there and I laid on it for 10 minutes. And it was amazing what just 10 minutes did. I felt like a new person after 10 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it feels like a mountain sometimes, like you said, I can be away from my practice for a while. So it is kind of hard to get right back into it. Mm-hmm. For those who haven't tried it, not interested, I tell them just think about just adding something different, which is mindfulness. Mm-hmm. Mindfulness is not directly, it doesn't have to mean meditation. The definition of mindfulness is it is the space between a stimulus and a response. So we're used to just like responding all the time, not having that space in our brain. So if you kind of slow down and put more spaces throughout your day, you will be way better mentally.
I love that. Just that image. I'm like looking at Roxy, like, we need to do that.
Well, I think even like just from a parenting standpoint, when I can pause, I never thought of that as being mindful, but just when I can like pause from when something happens and I want to pop off or I want to do something, and this is just the season I'm in right now, but that's when we have the best results. It's like I'm composed, I can regain whatever. But anyway, that just is what I'm thinking of that pause. But if I would I need to do that better as a mom anyway, and more often, I guess, but even just like in day-to-day life, I think that idea of the stimulus and the response. Did you say response or reaction? Something like that. Yeah.
Yes. But, the response. Yes.
The response. Of where I've been kind of chewing on that or trying that out just as like with parenting stuff to try to keep my composure that way. But also just, man, if I pulled that into more things in my life, just I pause before I respond, and yeah, I think that I'm just pondering how my life would benefit from that quite a bit. In more ways than one.
Been mindful. Yeah, you've already been mindful. You just need to do more of it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Practice it. Exercise that. Make it easier, more of a habit.
Well, and we kind of are living in a world where I think with text messaging and email and all the communication, we're sometimes led to believe it's like we're supposed to respond right away to things, and be quick on so many things. And so, something here recently, I've been like, okay, I can look at that and read that, and I don't have to respond right now. I can allow some space for it. And often, like to your point, Roxy, if it's something that's a little bit like triggering or challenging, it is better to provide some space because you'll probably respond in a much better manner. That's why they say, like, don't send the email right away, like pause before you press send.
Process. Yes.
But I just love that, even that image in my head of being like going like this and having space between the two is that's pretty powerful. Yeah. Oh, this is so good.
Yeah. You're like, oh, we already do many of those. It's just someone kind of turning them into like a blueprint for life, for health, where you have a plan for the next decade and beyond.
Yeah. And all this takes practice, you do have to be like mindful of slowing down to do these things and be intentional, because we do just get going so fast in our day to day.
Yeah. And life only gets busier.
That's right.
So for the fifth pillar, and for this, I'll tell you the study where it really correlates with that. So it's the longest study. So the initial people who enrolled right now, they're actually having their grandchildren and their children in it.
Wow.
And what they found was the single most important factor for longevity, for someone to live a long and healthy life, was not their diet. It was not their exercise, although those were important. It was the quality of their relationships.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
And that was surprising to the researchers. They were like, wait, what? This is more important than everything. So think about it. Imagine yourself going to the gym every day, eating healthy, but then your relationships are draining you. They're not supporting you. Your friends are toxic. You don't want to be in that kind of environment. And it goes back to saying you are the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So focusing on those around us, whether we're strengthening our relationship with our partner, with our children, even think about the people that you love and are far away from you. Are you calling them enough? Are you texting them enough? My sister lives far away. Am I calling her as much as I want to? Well, she fills my heart up with joy. Well, then I need to call her on a daily basis, not on a weekly basis. So that's how you start, by taking care of your soul with your relationships.
I was not expecting you to say that.
I was like, what's this going to be?
I know, but gosh, it goes back to like the stress management, putting boundaries down. If you're having relationships in your life that people are taking advantage of you or they're unhealthy, the stress that can cause, and obviously poor quality of relationships. So on one hand, I wasn't expecting you to say that. On the other hand, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. Man. That's a good one.
It's actually a health pillar. Yeah.
Yeah. How that's one of the first things that I don't have time to do that. Like I am prioritizing all these other things. I'm trying to do all the things. It's like, oh shoot, I haven't talked to so-and-so for a while. Like, I don't have time. Like that just seems like the first thing to cut out. And when I'm overwhelmed, the last thing that I think to do is to like take the time to catch up with a friend or what, I'm like, okay, I got to get myself out of this overwhelm and then I can do that versus like considering that as maybe the treatment, the treatment of the overwhelm of that.
It is a prescription. So a lifestyle doctor can actually write it on a script pad. So consider a treatment, drop everything and tend to your relationship.
You're like, yes, write this for me. I love that. That's so good. That's so good. Man, I know, like, that just needs a minute.
Yeah. Letting it sink in. Yep, absolutely. And it goes to habits as well. So if the people around you have all these unhealthy habits, it's going to affect your health. And if they have these healthy habits, they're going to pull you up.
That's just what I was thinking of, like, shoot, if the people that fill you up, they probably have really great traits. They have really life-giving traits, and that's going to inspire you to be better and do better and whatnot. And so it's kind of like you said, the sleep, it has the ripple effect, or it can tear everything down or it can boost everything. That just how important our relationships can also do that, because the people that do fill us up probably have great habits, or they have great attributes that we want to have, or we want to mimic, or we want to be stronger in, or whatever. And that's like a spiral up kind of concept rather than the down. So I love this.
I know. Yeah. We're going to be signing up to have Dr. Leen coach us, Roxy. I'm already like, okay, wait.
You guys are great. So that last pillar is avoiding risky substances. And I like to add avoiding toxins as well to that. So we know that we're not supposed to smoke, and fortunately, people are smoking less than they used to. Nicotine consumption is going down, I believe, although there's vaping going up. So if you vape, don't do that. And then a risky substance is alcohol. So I know in the past they were saying it's healthy for the heart, like 2 glasses of wine a day is fine. it really isn't healthy. Alcohol is not healthy. I can't call it that. It's going to affect your health in so many different ways. The less, the better. That is the key rule. Especially if you do it for sleep, don't do it for sleep. It's going to not put you in that good quality sleep. It will leave your sleep into poor quality. I know some women like to unwind with their glass of wine. If you're doing it for sleep purposes, find something else. So that's what I would say. And then obviously marijuana, terrible for your health. Get off of it if you're on it. And then I think about the toxins in the environment. Right now, people are becoming more and more aware of microplastics. So the average American will consume in a week a credit card worth of microplastics from the environment. That is like huge. And
that's a lot.
Yes.
No wonder we all have gut problems.
Right. It is huge. I wasn't really interested in like containing it because I thought, well, how much could I be having until I saw the amount? And it's the least one we have control over, but I like to give people that agency and empowerment. So I go back to my 80-20 rule. What can I do better? Okay, let's get rid of the plastic Tupperware. Let's make sure we do our reusable water cups wherever we go. That's tumblers instead of the plastic ones. Don't microwave plastic. And then I don't go extreme where I'm not using any plastic. I know it's in the environment. I know it's there. If you fix your health in the other pillars, it will help your immunity to just do your best. Do what you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Those simple, not using like the plastic containers, that sort of thing, is. I felt like when I heard that one, I was like, okay, I can do that. That's easy. I can go to Costco and get the glass, and
yeah,
I can do that. It could take you down a rabbit hole real quick, but when you start to your point, I didn't realize that it was that much, a credit card size.
Well, I feel like this is a kind of a buzzy topic on just like the toxins piece, because I feel like, yeah, it can take you down a rabbit hole of like, oh, well, I can't get this lotion or this shampoo, or like literally everything has crap in it. I mean, it just has stuff in it. But I think just appreciating maybe that spectrum of saying, okay, here's the low hanging fruit, and I'm going to try to do as good as, I'm going to do better with my diet and my exercise and my sleep and these, and kind of just be okay. We've part of kind of what we like to talk about is that imperfect wellness piece of just saying like, if we try to be perfect with it, we're going to spiral our stress up,
Yeah.
Then, but just, yeah, I think like you said, just some of those low hanging fruits of just being aware of like, what's some simple things we can start with and then go from there? Cause I know I've had some people around me that have really kind of gone down a dark hole of trying to eliminate toxins in their life. And it, like you said, like some of it's really out of our control. And I think appreciating that and finding a balance and finding what do I have in my control that I can feel good about while also knowing that I'm going to have some.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I wouldn't want to go way out of balance and way out of my way in life because that's going to cause anxiety. It's going to cause other problems. And if you're someone who is not moving and not exercising, what is more important, chasing that one lotion or getting your 150 minutes a week? So after you tweak everything and control everything, yes, feel free to go down the rabbit holes, but don't start there.
Don't start there. Yeah, yes. I love that. We tried doing, which we haven't been perfect with it every month, but we kind of like at the start of the year, my husband and I were like, let's try like once a month to just maybe trade out something that, so it was like our laundry detergent. And then one month it was like our dishwasher stuff. And then it was like our cleaning things. And it was kind of interesting. We tried to make it more of like something interesting to kind of like look at together. And it didn't seem overwhelming because at one point in my life, when I had just got my autoimmune stuff and I went way down into, and it was so stressful that then it just made all my symptoms worse. So I'm very like now, like, okay.
Yes. Yes. I like that.
Baby steps. One thing at a time. Cause it can because it's like, to your point, like we're in this lifestyle. This is for the long game. It's not like, let's cut it all out because we're just going to do it for 30 days and then we're done. I mean, that's sometimes when people come in and they're like, well, I didn't do so good this past week. I didn't do my exercises every day. And I'm like, okay, well, how much did you get them in? And I'm like, oh, I got them in 4 times, four times this week. I'm like, that's fantastic. I'm very happy that you got them in 4 times. Like this is the long game. We don't have to be perfect. It's okay.
Yes, it's the long game. Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And when we're changing something around the house, I don't do that with clients at this time where we're looking at detergents and details. You can look for those brands and see what suits you. But what I do with them is I do a pantry reset because that's the most powerful reset you need to do in your house to kind of get all that packaged stuff out. I review what's in there, what we need to exchange. And then for those of us with children, you can't just take everything away. You need to give them alternatives, right? Yes. They're going to get hungry. Yes. So,
with kids, that's definitely the hard one. We're trying to trade out. My kids are like, why can't I have these goldfish anymore? I don't like the Annie's bunnies. They're like, well, okay. So I've got a question for you here. So if someone's like listening to this, or they're listening to all these pillars, and it feels overwhelming, and they're unsure where to start, which pillar do you recommend they focus on first for the biggest impact?
Oh, that's a great question.
I know. I know. Go either way.
I would kind of do some journaling. I would have them write down because it varies from person to person. So if someone was only sleeping 4 hours a night, then that's where they would need to start.
Okay.
If someone is eating McDonald's every day, then that's probably where they need to start.
True.
So I would have them journal. I think sleep and exercise are the biggest thing, followed by nutrition. For me, that's where I start. It's hard to pick. What about relationships? So
I know.
all of it. You just need to journal and then see what's not working and then kind of have a step-by-step plan. That's why I like to do this over weeks. That's why my program is 6 weeks, where we can focus on one every week and kind of slowly get that lifestyle upgrade.
No, I like that answer, actually, to actually sit. It adds to your point of mindfulness, sit there, provide some space between the two, look in every category and kind of see where you're struggling the most. And if you are struggling in every category, obviously if someone's working with you and doing your program, you go through each one of them. But I think that's really great to think about, because you're right. I mean, when I first looked at this list, I'm like, okay, well, I agree. I was kind of the same with you. I'm like, okay, sleep and movement. But if your relationships are awful, it could be that. Just depends.
Yeah. And if anyone wants a workbook for that, just send me a DM on Instagram and I'll send you a life audit workbook.
So earlier you said you really are passionate about 30 to 40-year-old age range women. Tell me more about what is that? Is that just perimenopause? Is that because of the premenopausal range, or what kind of pulls you to those people? And then working with you in that, what does that look like, and how do these women get connected with you?
Yeah, so I can work with anybody. They can book a discovery call, but I do specialize in this age group because we're working together on getting certain symptoms prevented, disease prevented, and take care of our bodies decades in advance. The program that I have right now that's coming up. The doors will be open soon, but the program will be in the fall. It's called the Perimenopause Prep Boot Camp. And this is a group program where if they don't want to do one-on-one coaching, we will be doing this as a group, a small group. They will get in-depth work about the 6 pillars. They will get things like the pantry reset that we talked about. They get to know what changes will happen in their bodies in the upcoming years and what to watch for and what to do about them. So all these wonderful things are coming in the program. And if anyone wants to join the Perimenopause Prep Bootcamp, they can just DM me on Instagram and I'll send them the wait list or the link if it's open by the time that you listen. So just send me a DM, say the word PREP, 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 and you will get the details immediately.
Cool. And go ahead and share your social media handle. What's your Instagram handle?
Dr. Leen Awad, so DrLeenAwad.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you know where to find her, everybody. This was so good, and I love it so much. And I think that, man, so many little words of wisdom, and I think these little nuggets of just information that I think is going to really, hopefully, spark something in a lot of women listening. So thank you so much for sharing this. I find what you're doing is so fascinating. And do we have anybody else here in the Wichita area that's a lifestyle practitioner?
Not that I know of. I've seen functional medicine, which is different. I haven't seen.
And that's what I was going to ask you. And
Yes.
the kind of the difference between functional med and lifestyle. Because there's a lot of things you talk about that cross, but I can tell that probably there's a difference.
Yeah. So we both want to look at the human as a whole. We both want to focus on prevention. Functional medicine might look more into like certain diseases. Like let's say someone had that autoimmune disease flare up and they will investigate into these pillars and labs and more down the line to kind of see what to do for certain people. Like let's say you can't handle gluten, but in lifestyle medicine, I'm not going to say to everyone, don't consume gluten. So that would be like the main difference. And then there are smaller differences also.
Okay. So Dr. Leen, thank you so much for being on here today. We will have everything in the show notes, and everybody listening, if you have any questions or need any extra info of how to get connected with Dr. Leen, please reach out to us through our social media, and we will keep the conversation going our next episode.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us this week on the Pelvis Project podcast. Help us continue the conversation by liking and sharing this episode with friends. And if you really want to do us a solid, leave us a review. If you'd like to follow us on social, check out the show notes for links. And remember, this week, take a deep breath and relax your pelvic floor.